right, welcome back to Let's Make Beats with Ehmurrai. Today's episode, we're going to get straight to the point. I'm not going to waste any time, so let's just get straight to it. In this episode, I'm going to dive more deep in how to make beats in Ableton. So I'm really going to go step by step and explain the process in how to make a beat in Ableton. So we're doing this with the basis of we're a beginner, we don't have any music theory, and so the process is going to be for anyone that's just getting started to easily be able to digest this. And so right when we open Ableton up, you can see I've got things color coded. I've got some snares and claps and 808s, some other percussive elements already preloaded on these MIDI tracks. And I've got RIPCHORD feeding into Omnisphere on these two MIDI tracks. This is all about efficiency, which I think is key when you really want to get straight to making a beat and you've got some idea in your head. You want to hurry and translate it to the DAW. And so essentially the way you get this is when you come onto the program, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up well, actually, I'm not going to open anything out. Here's what I'll do. Let's close all this out, right? And then we'll reopen it and you'll see what I'm talking about. So when you open up Ableton, it'll most likely look something like this. There may be some MIDI tracks, some audio tracks, but there's not going to be anything on the track. It's all up to you. And so the way you create these presets, let's say, okay, I want a kick. I use drum racks in Ableton. So if you go and type in the search bar drum rack and you drag the drum rack from here right over onto your MIDI track, boom, we've got a drum rack set up. And so let's say I want kicks. You want some kicks. And this is just for the purpose of showing you how to create your own preset, default preset when you open up Ableton. So these aren't necessarily kicks I'm going to use specifically right here, but let's say I want these kicks. You drag them over. Boom. Now you've got, and then let's rename this kick so you know that these are kicks. So boom, you've got your kicks, and you got that pretty much ready to go. Drag this bank, and so something you want to do, you want to make sure that you really want to make sure you drag these down to C1. You want to start there because that's where the default is going to be. So as you saw, I drug those kind of into an awkward space. But let's say you drag these right there. Boom. C1. Boom. Now you've got a preset kick drum rack set up. And you can repeat this process for every instrument that you would normally use in your beat making process. So whatever that means to you, right? You create these drum racks, you drag on, all the instruments that you would normally use. And so I hate why that keeps doing that. Oh God, come on. So now you've got some snares. And I think you really want to stay organized with this. You want to rename what it is you're creating. And so let's say we want claps, right? It's the same process. You drag over your drum rack, search for your sounds. And these sounds, these are just like, I've got a boatload of samples and sounds that I've just collected over the years. So these are, you're going to see a lot of different names and producer sound kits in here. I got some Southside stuff, some trap movement. I've just got like so many different, you know, sound kits. And this is just things that I've collected over the years. And so rename this clap. And you can do the same thing for, you know, within Ableton, you can do the same thing for whatever, you know, VSTs you want to use. So let's say, okay, I want Omnisphere preloaded. Oh, come on. This is why I need my trackpad, because that's so awkward just having that. So this is why you want to stay efficient and organized, right? And so, you know, you open it up, you know you're going to use Omnisphere on every beat or whatever VST it is. You can preload some stuff. We'll do 3. And then I'm going to show you how you can save this so that every time you open it up, you're ready to just get straight to making beats. You don't have to keep reloading instruments and all this stuff. And this is really going to speed up your beat making process. It'll eliminate all of the, you know, the paperwork, I should call it. All right, so look, we've got some kicks, we got some snares, some claps. There are more elements, but I'm just trying to show you guys how you can, you know, have yourself ready to go. So go ahead and, you know, you can pause here and add in some more tracks and drum racks, like, you know, maybe some hi-hats. Maybe you got some vocal samples you use, some vocal hits. Go ahead and load up all your MIDI tracks and all of your VSTs that you would normally use on each beat, however many that you would have. And then once you get to that point, you're going to go to live and then go to settings. And then on this left-hand tab here, you're going to select file folder. And so what you want to do is save current set as default. Now, I'm not going to do this because I already have a default set and I don't want to overwrite that. But since you guys are creating this from scratch, this is what you're going to use. This is just going to be your starting point for each beat that you make. So once you've got all your MIDI tracks set up, you got all your drum racks created, you know, throw in all the things that you go to, you know, your favorite kicks, your favorite 808s, all that stuff. And save that current set as a default. All right. And so that's pretty much how you set yourself up for efficiency in Ableton Live. You've got your drum rack set, you got your go-to VSTs. And so on my set, when you see me open a new live set, as you can see, give it a sec. Now, boom, we've got all of these ready to go. I got my virtual instruments. I've got my snares and claps. They're all ready to go. Now, if you went ahead and downloaded RIPCHORD, I've talked about this in a lot of my previous videos. The way to set that up is pretty much follow that same process. Essentially, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to load RIPCHORD onto its own MIDI track, and then load up another VST that you want to send audio from RIPCHORD into. So for my sake, I've got Nexus here, but I'm gonna actually replace that for this video. I'm gonna replace that with Omnisphere. Oops, spelled that wrong. So yeah, I'm gonna replace that with Omnisphere. And so we've loaded Omnisphere. Boom. You're gonna want to go to. So when you first start this out, it's gonna most likely look like this. And so if I go on RIPCHORD, we're not hearing. There's no audio being sent. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to all ends, and you're going to want to select RIPCHORD. And you're going to go to the second tab right underneath that and select RIPCHORD as well. And then you're going to want to go to monitor and select in. And so now audio is being sent. And make sure that you got this track armed for RIPCHORD, because that's where you're sending your audio from. That sounds terrible. Okay, so if you have this armed, you're not going to hear anything, right? Because we're not playing audio from this. So make sure that you got this track armed. And yes, it can get a little confusing, but this is why you want to make sure that everything's labeled, everything is organized. So we've got our default set, we've got our track set, and let's get straight to making the beat. Now within RIPCHORD, there are a bunch of presets you can go online and download. Just go online, search Google for RIPCHORD presets. Some of the ones that I use that are very popular are from Prisms. So if you just type in Prisms RIPCHORD presets in Google, you will find these guys. They've made like a bunch of presets, and I'm sure that there's a lot of other different presets that you can find as well. Alright, so now we're going to find something that sounds good. The fun part. And this is really great because when you're just starting out, and I'm assuming that you're not classically trained. If you are, that's great. You'll have even more of an understanding of what's happening with RIPCHORD. But this is just a quick way to really get into making a great sounding beat. I think we'll find some pads. So I've also mentioned before, one of the things I really like about Ableton is, let's say you're just playing something that you really like. Let's say I was just playing, and we'll turn this on, but let's just say I was playing those notes I just was doing. So let's say I played that. So you played something. If you go up and you see this hollowed out square, you toggle that, you will capture the audio you just played. And that's a great way to, if you had an idea and it's like, wow, that was great, there you go. Now the other way you can do this is you just go onto the MIDI track and you see you got these multiple layers of tracks. If you just toggle the record button, you can do it that way as well. Boom, there you go. All right. And I'm really trying to go into more detail of this with you guys. So this may be a longer video, but I think it's going to help a lot of people that kind of felt a little, daunted about the process of making beats. And we're just trying to show you it's not too hard. Anyone can do it. So, all right. So we've got our chords created. Now, the next step, me personally, you can leave this on RIPCHORD and you can continue on making your beat. But what I like to do is if we go and hit this wrench tool here, it'll bring the VST back up. Go ahead and toggle this record button and press play. And let the whole thing play through. Once it played through, go ahead and stop and then untoggle this red recording button, and you're going to see these 4 squares have been highlighted. If you just drag those squares onto the VST that is playing the audio, so the source of the audio is the VST, so Omnisphere is a source. So drag these 4 squares into there and then click down here in this window. And you're going to see that, okay, we've got the actual chords here, right? Boom. We're just going to highlight that and get rid of that. And so I do my chords, or at least my first, initial sounds. I do them in 8 bars. Some people would do them in 4. The reason I do it in 8 is because if you do in 4, it's going to repeat this. It's basically repeating this. But here's the reason why I want this extra half, right? Is because on the second half, I may do something different than what I did in the first half. So I may add some additional notes up here and go all the way across and have like a different melody playing across here, just to give it a little bit of a more of a variation. And so let's go ahead and see how that works. So once you've, drug the notes over, you're going to want to reinitiate the default settings so that the audio is now being played directly from this MIDI track. So you're going to want to put this back to all ends, and then this will go to all channels, and then just toggle this to auto. And now we've got our chords. And now we'll do what I was saying earlier with, adding some variation. And so we're going with this based off the understanding of having no, music theory knowledge. And so all you're going to want to do is just pay attention to the notes that are actually the notes that have been used to create these chords. So we can see, D sharp, we can see B, G sharp, E, B, and you'll simply just create the melody using those same notes. And so I'll generally stick to the notes that are higher up in the chords, because the lower the note, the more bassy it's going to be. And so I'll stick to, the D, D, B for these specific chords. And of course, the higher up in the octaves you go, then they'll be, more audible and they'll get higher pitched. So yeah, you can still use these same notes, but just make sure that, melody wise, we're choosing that sound. So another shortcut, if you toggle B, it'll get you the pencil. It'll toggle you between like this pencil drawing tool and your move tool. That's a quick way to just draw some notes in on that. And then if you hit Shift Command U, allows you to quantize. And so that'll allow you to kind of shift your notes to be more on grid. And another thing too, if you hit quantize, you can adjust the start and end, or whether you only want it to quantize at the end or beginning, and you can adjust the percentage amount of that. So that's where I was speaking earlier, where, you know, I wanted to do it with 8 bars because now we've got some variation between the first 4 bars and the last 4 bars, and that gives the beat a little bit more of a less repetitive feel. And so next, what we're gonna do, and usually I delete this, but I might come back to it for another purpose. So let's just continue this. These are just some preset, you know, instances I kind of loaded in. But now the next step of the beat is to add a lead melody. So we're still in Omnisphere, and we're just gonna play it, and we're gonna find a sound that sounds good. Let's see, what do I want to go for? And so I use that method where I pretty much just played, you know, by ear, and I try to fill out the notes when I make beats. And so I was feeling that. That's what I was feeling. And so now, and let's say you did the same thing and you've got, you know, you've played what you wanted. One thing that you can do, because you may not want all of this, obviously I was feeling it out and then I landed on something. So select what you want, right? That section, and then crop it. And so real quick, just how I did that, I just, you know, I had the selection where I wanted it. And then sometimes you got to be careful, because if, you know, we'll hit right click and then we'll hit crop clip. But sometimes when you do that, that very first note can get deleted and you're like, wait, that's not. And the reason that may happen is because that first note might be outside of the parameters that have been set. And so just make sure you zoom in and get that little guy in there. And then you're going to want to right click and crop clip, and then that'll get you kind of in a more concise window so you can see what's really going on. So what you saw me do there is pretty much the same thing. Like if you're, you know, let's say you've got this window, you've got this melody, and you're like, oh, I wanted to add that. Another thing you can do is you can just play, make sure that you're armed on the track of where these notes exist. So we're blue. This is why I like color coding things. We're armed here, and then press play. And within it, play some notes, pause. Well, actually, so let's do that again. So you're playing, play some notes, and then while it's playing, you can select this while it's playing, and it'll add in the notes that, you know, you want it to add in. Also make sure that your windows are all aligned, and so you want to be in multiples. So if your bass is in 8 bars, you either want, you know, your next instance to be 8 bars or 4 bars, depending on whatever it is you want to loop. I tend to keep all mine in 8. So that sounds good. You know, I talked about the quantization earlier, and so if you'd want it to sound more on beat, you know, hit Command A, Command U to quantize that. I'm going to undo it because I kind of like my sounds to sound a little bit more natural, like played by a human. I don't like everything so on the grid, and so if you zoom in, you can see that things are kind of near quantized, right? They're more human-like. They're, I played the notes on my keyboard, so I want to retain that same feel. And so the next step, we're going to add one more sound. I usually feel that 3 is a great bass layer. A lot of people, well, some people, I can't say a lot, but some people may start with the drums first. Some people may start with the hi-hat pattern, or there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just whatever you're feeling in that moment. In this moment, I was feeling start with the chords first. If I have like a drum pattern in my head that I really want to get out, I'll do that first, and then I'll build the rest of the beat around that. So let's go ahead and add some more elements here. I'm feeling like I hear maybe some textured I like adding textures to beats, man. Like they give you like a feel. They give it some texture. Some texture for the beat. I'll want a little more headroom on this. And so as you're creating the beat, it's a good idea to try to keep your levels like mix as you go, as I like to do. And so we're not wanting to, have everything all sky high, because then you've already started and there's no room for hi-hats. And so I usually start with everything kind of around the minus 12 dB mark, and that leaves a lot of room for drums and hi-hats, and it just protects you. Alright, so we're sounding good on that. Let's go ahead and we've got, as we've discussed, the way you can really just quickly get to it is because we've went ahead and created this preset, default setting where we've got everything lined up for us, and we can just go in This kick is like intentionally made to clip, and I just love the sound of it. And so you'll see it's just like peaking like no other. Like, and yeah, it's I believe I got this kick. It was a Metro Boomin drum kit. So if you go online and you search for that, that's where you can find it. And then I do have some snares I use, and then I've also been using this Yeet drum kit. I like the snares they've got in here. This meta one is like my favorite. That one's been pretty popular lately. And you just do what sounds good to you. Like, don't worry about like, oh, it's overused. Oh, everyone else is like, you're making a beat from scratch. Just make what sounds good to you. Like, don't worry about what someone else is doing or saying. Another thing to do as well with your hi-hats, and we're about to do that, a nice trick is to make, and I do everything on this piano roll, and so is make sure that your hi-hats fall in line with the notes on your chords. So if you can use any of these depending on what pitch you're going for, but it sounds more aesthetically pleasing to, make sure all your elements are in the same key. So for example, okay, I'll usually go for a lower note on my hi-hat. So okay, like E or G are the lowest in this chord structure. So let's see. So we've laid our, and I'll probably get rid of clap. You may not use the same, you may not use everything, in each beat. And so in some instances, I like to be efficient, and so when we go and we start like laying down the sequence of the beat, we don't want empty things in the way. So let's keep going. And I have this like signature sound that I use in almost every, well, not almost every beat, but I love using it a lot. It's the signature clave sound. So I'm just adding some that sounded good. Let's get straight to a beat, or not the beat, but the bass. I'm gonna probably go in two paths here. I'll probably come in with like some sub bass, because that's sounding like that would sound good. Built into Ableton, there's a sub bass that's great. It's just called, if you type in hip hop and then toggle all results, it's just called hip hop sub bass, and it's built into Ableton. You don't have to pay for, like, you don't have to go download on the internet somewhere, but it's literally just like a really great sounding like sub bass. And so yeah, let's get to it. Same thing with this. You want to make sure that you're in the same scale key as your chords. Like, you don't want to be playing some off notes. It's all going to fall in line, so just pay attention to what we're seeing. We're seeing some D sharp, E, and usually the lower notes in the chords work great for like 808s and sub basses and stuff, so pay attention to those. We're seeing like B, G, and E, so let's go with that. Were there any Fs? Yes, there's an F. And we're gonna follow my pattern. Like I said, I like to do an 8-bar and then kind of switch it up on the second. Okay, so what we're gonna do, because like we're peaking a lot, and so here's something that's gonna be really great for you guys to see. So on your sub bass, you're gonna want to add, and this can go for any 808s, or yeah, I'll usually do this on my 808s. You can see here I've got, you know, and as a matter of fact, I'll just copy this. So I've got an EQ, I've got a compressor and a limiter, and this is going to help us with like the peaking, and you know, just copy and paste that and right on here. So your EQ is going to allow you to shape the sound. Your compressor is going to allow you to adjust, you know, the threshold, the output. And the limiter is gonna, you know, limit your sound, right, wherever you want. You don't want it to go past -5 decibels or whatever. As you can see, it's keeping us down. Essentially gives you a ceiling, right? And so another thing we're gonna do, so let's shape it. I really want this like thumping in the lower end, like that 808 saucy sound. So I'll usually just do a slight, you know, uptick here. Same there. Now what I want to show you guys is side chaining. So when the kick punches in, we want the kick to punch through the sub bass. We don't want it just laying on top of each other and sounding all mushy and whatnot. So when that kick hits, we want the sub bass to duck down a little bit just when the kick is hitting, so it can kind of punch through. And so the way you do that is side chaining, and you have that built into the compressor here on Ableton. So you've added these, you toggle this arrow, boom, side chaining. So if you highlight side chaining, you've activated it. In audio from, you want to select the kick. And so now you're seeing when that kick hits, you're seeing this toggle it down. Now if you adjust the gain, it's gonna adjust. And as you can see, like this gain is gonna adjust the intensity of how much, you know, it's accepting that side chain. And so essentially, So yeah, you can see that this level is giving you kind of a, you're seeing as the kick punches, you can see it drop, and it's giving space for that kick to punch through. Now you want to do the same thing. You're going to want to add a compressor and limiter on your kick as well, because you don't want, you don't want that like just going crazy. Me personally, like, I like to give the kick free rein. Like, this kick has a very specific natural sound to it. We turn these off. Like, it's very much made to just peak out. Like, that's the way it was intended to be used. And so we go in and we add on, the compressor and the limiter. You can see it's drawing it back. And it kind of loses some of its sauce, honestly. And I am by no means like a master engineer or whatever or whatnot, so you can take what I say with a grain of salt, because I'm really here to teach you guys just how the creative process behind making the beats. And so, that's what our focus here is. Structure, sounds, chord creation, those are the things we're focused on. And so I said it is what it was. I wonder what that means. I meant to put it is what it is, but I'll go with it is what it was. I don't know what that can mean. It sounds interesting. It sounds like a cool movie name. It is what it was, coming to theaters near you. Alright, this is so awkward, like having to go up here on my computer. I'm used to just using my trusty trackpad, and I don't know where the charger is for that. So, but yeah, we got our beat saved. And so yeah, I'll probably do more mixing, at the end of this. We're just trying to do beat structure. So like, let's go ahead and lay this down. And so something I like to do for the intro of my beats, as you saw, I kind of added some extra notes on the chords up top here. For the intro, starting with the chords, I'll delete those to give it a more simple sound. And then maybe I'll bring in these textures on the beginning. So the way you kind of track your beat in Ableton, and we've been doing everything in this window. So in order to get it in a track in a sequence, you have to record. And I mean, technically you could do all this in this window, and that's what I love about Ableton is there's a lot of different things that you can, there's no one way to do something. And so if you wanted, we could have been doing all of this in this window, right? But I like to trigger things, and I like to just have my beats kind of set up and organized. So we'll have to track it, and it's great I did this way so you guys can see it anyway. And so you see these numbers here, 1 through 8. These are all your different tracks. If you press play, it'll play everything on that track within each MIDI track. So 2 will play everything that's highlighted on track 2. 3 will play everything that's highlighted on track 3, and so forth. And so if you arm this track, right, and hit record is how you'll start, laying your beat down in the sequence. And so let's go ahead and do that. We got track 1 armed, and we'll hit record. So as you can see, we've kind of laid it down. Now what we can do, and you see it's kind of grayed out because even though we've laid it down, really it's only going to play, we're playing from this window, so this is what's active. But to activate this window, if you see in your right hand corner here, this red play button will play that, and that activates this field. And so now, well, let's continue. So on the verse, I'm gonna say I want to do that sound, and then maybe I want to layer it with something else. So we'll duplicate it, get rid of these, we'll color code it. I love color coding. We're staying nice and neat. And so on this second one, maybe we'll go, we're back in Omnisphere. Ooh, maybe an organ might sound good. I like that church feel, so let's try that. And so we'll drag this one a little, we're mixing a little bit as we go, just dip this one down a little bit so it's not, overpowering. And it's just gonna give us, it's going to give us, some more variation there. And so we've got So we'll, you know, add some variation on the hi-hats. We don't want the same hi-hats going all the way. And so we've got that going. And let me hear quick. All right, and then I think what we'll do is we'll switch up, so we won't stay on the we won't stay on the sub bass to carry the whole beat. We'll switch over to an 808, and I think that's another way to really add some differentiation, some variation in your beats, is maybe use two different 808s. Maybe use some sub bass here and an 808 there, a kick here, you know, to just make it feel different, make the person listening feel like they're on a journey. And that's what I like to do. I'd like to make my beats an experience, right? I'm making this with the intention that the person is going to be listening to just the beat. And so I don't want it to be stale. I don't want it to sound like the same throughout the entire beat, of course. And I can hear what in my head, where I want the beat to go, which I don't know if that's like some sort of gift or something, but like I can just, okay, I can hear this next. And so when you're seeing me kind of just going straight for it, doing these things, I'm trying to really get as close to what I hear in my head as possible. So I might pause and stop the beat a lot because I'm really trying to hear and feel that. That's it, baby. take time with your beats. Like, don't rush through and say, oh, I saw this guy make a beat in like 5 minutes, so now I gotta make a beat in 3 minutes. Like, no, forget all that. Like, spend time with it. Like, care about the work you're doing. Like, I find that when you spend more time on something and you actually care about the result versus, how fast you did it or you're trying to impress somebody, none of that stuff matters. Like, if it could take you a year to make a beat, that one beat might make you $1 million. You never know. And so just take time and enjoy the process. It's just, where do I want? Add a little pump, a little thump in this 808. And so, what is next? So we're on the verse, and so we technically be. And usually something I'll do is those notes I added on the hook at the top of the chords. It's a quick way to get another melody in and kind of tie things together. We can copy those and paste them in just on a different instrument. And we're not going to go with that. That sounds awful. But we can copy those same notes and it'd be a great starting point for a melody. And so we go into, and we've been doing this whole beat with Atmosphere. I'm fine with that. I'm going to be investing, hopefully this channel picks up, I'll be investing in some more VSTs for us to try out. I've got like a whole, like, all right, so let's lay this hook part down, or verse part. So something I'll do too, like I won't have that playing through the whole time. I'll probably just have that come in on the second half of the verse. And some people will do their verses 8 or 16 bars. I like shorter verses, so I only do mine like 8-bar verse. Or is this 16 bars? I've always been so confused about that. I thought a bar was like, what, 4 seconds? So if we're maybe a bar is 8 seconds. Huh. Alright, anyways, let's not get sidetracked. And I wonder if I want this beat to be a little faster. Sounds best at 120. Alright, so we've shown so far, we've done the intro, the verse. So now we will do, and so we'll probably just go back to, you know, after the verse, we'll go back to, so we'll just copy that over and it'll repeat, and then same thing, we'll copy our verse, and so this is our song structure, right? So we've got verse to the hook, verse to the hook. And then something I thought too about, at least in this middle section, at least just like in that middle part, right? It won't do it at the beginning, but just, and we'll copy this over on the second one as well. So because it comes, reason why I left that hollow space there is I felt like maybe there needed to be room to breathe after these 808s. And then someone's, you know, rapping over or whatever, it'll give space for their voice when they come in on the verse, and it'll be very impactful. Whatever they say is they've got that space. And then when that 808 comes in and hits under, when they're in that first, you know, few bars of what they're saying, it's just gonna hit hard. I wonder, I think I want more textures in I want to feel more textures in the verse as well, so when it's coming in. And so let's go here back on Omnisphere and see if we can find some more textures. Is there a mood for textures? Maybe like dreamlike textures. Doesn't sound bad. It's very quiet. I think I'll go with these. These sound pretty. It's the kind of what I was hearing anyway. Like something just to add some texture. And I can kind of hear like some low end in this. We're gonna get rid of that. We don't want any of that. I just want that. That feel. Alright, so that's pretty much the beat there, guys. This video has gotten very long. I'm not sure how that happened. But essentially, yeah, we're good. I'll probably just add, we'll go through the whole thing. Maybe this will be my longest video. So just to end this off, so something we can do just to end this off on a good note is something that I like to do is, let me see. Maybe I'll copy the original the original chords and bring them onto a different instrument. Okay, I don't know what happened with that. Had a crash happen, I guess. I'll just reopen it and cut around this part. So I was just adding an ending just to give it kind of a nice lush ending. So what I'll do is I'll duplicate this. We're going to find And let me see, probably another, I know this is getting like super duper long, but I'm really, you know, trying to dig in and show you guys the full process, the full on just end to end on making a full composition, full beat. And so trying to find what I hear in my head. So let's lay this in here. I want to bring these closer so I can they all kind of go together right here. So and so we've got a nice little end section. And this is really getting into the nitty gritty. We're really showing a full. We've shown the intro, the hook, the verse, and now we're showing some type of like outro. So we've learned to do a full-on composition. I thought maybe I heard some type of horn. Maybe there's okay, I think that'll be all I'll do for and so a great way to kind of smooth that out, smooth out that transition between the beat and the outro, is to add a transitionary element. So some type of transition. And I think once we've done that, we're in a great space to end this video. This video is like almost 2 hours. And I don't know if anyone will sit here that long. Well, I guess if you really want to learn the beat structure, and maybe one person will sit through it. Okay, so we've got transition effects, and then that sounds perfect. And we won't want it that loud, so. See how it kind of just smooths it out, like it's not just an abrupt switch to. And that's also, along with the transition, maybe bringing these chords in earlier. And then I've shown automation mode a little bit. So if you click view and select A, you've got these red lines, which are like keyframes, and you can pretty much automate any effect. You know, the standard setting would be the mixer and track volume. So you can automate the track volume. And then if you add on, you can also automate the parameters within the VST itself. So you've got all these, based on the VST, whatever, you know, features it has, you can automate those. In this one specifically, I think I'm just going to do, so maybe I'll add an EQ. So watch, so I added the EQ, right? And so now I can select the EQ, and now I can keyframe, I can automate features, the features of the EQ preset. So, I think let's try EQ3 because it's a little bit more straightforward, because really all I want to do is automate the high frequency, like maybe when it's coming in it's more muffled. And so if we go into so you'll see how that kind of comes in more subtly. And so that's just a little bit about the automation mode. So now that transition should be a little smoother. And then so I want to do something with this. This one I want it to kind of feel like it's really going around you. And so I'm just going to add this here. And this is essentially just a panning preset. And so this is giving us more of like a kind of make it feel like it's really circling us. Let me see what it does. I just feel like it's going around you instead of leaving it like dead center. Alright, and that's the end of that beat. So we're just going to make sure we save this. We put a lot of work in that, 2 hours. Congrats to us. And so we've got a lot going on. Alright, and that is how you make a beat in Ableton from start to finish. If you've enjoyed this video and you want me to keep creating content like this, please like, share, and definitely subscribe. And let me know if I should keep putting out videos like this and showing you guys all the ins and outs of Ableton and just making a beat from scratch as a whole. You don't need a whole lot. I mean, we use pretty much one VST from start to finish on this beat, and so as long as you got the patience and the time and the desire, you can definitely make some really cool sounding stuff. And so thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.